Hi everybody, it's Lydia here. So today is Thursday and I have decided to start doing a new segment called Throwback Thursdays. Now basically what this means is I am going to be picking a book which I feel doesn't get the right level of public recognition that it deserves. And I'm going to be talking about it, discussing it and hopefully persuading you in turn to read it. Now this book could have been released last year or it could have been released over 100 years ago. But basically it's a way of hopefully bringing to light some of the books that fall under the radar and you haven't heard of. So let's get started. So for this inaugural episode of Throwback Thursday, I have decided to talk about The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. Now I know this is a book that in the last few months has been reasonably popular around the booktube world, but I feel that in the general public eye it hasn't really had the right level of recognition. For those of you who don't know, this is the first book in a 7-part series, with the second part, The Mime Order, due to be released next January. Now to just give you an idea of the level of expectations surrounding this series, the film rights for it were pretty much instantaneously snapped up by Imaginarium Studios as soon as it was published. And it's a 7-part series. Now imagine the faith you have to have in a series to be able to say, I want to produce this as a film when only one book has been written. That's pretty incredible. So The Bone Season is set a few decades in the future, in a world where clairvoyancy is banned under pain of death. Now the series follows a girl named Paige Mahoney, who is a clairvoyant and she works for the underground syndicate, who basically make money out of clairvoyancy. Now without going into too much detail about what happens in the book, because there is a pretty big reveal quite early on, it's basically about a number of clairvoyants trying to take down the system that is holding them hostage. And in the meanwhile, they're also discovering that there is so much more to this system than they ever knew and were ever told by the authorities. Now one of my favourite things about this book is the characters and how well written they are. The lead character, Paige, is so strong-willed and has such strong opinions that she absolutely sticks to, and I love that so much, because too often, particularly in YA books, the lead character, often a female, starts off appearing all strong and mighty and wonderful, but then as soon as, let's face it, often a guy who's pretty cute comes along, those ideas just disappear out the window. Now I'm not saying that happens in every YA book, it certainly doesn't, but for me it was so refreshing the way that this character was written, because I really felt like I wasn't angry at her and annoyed at her, which I often feel like in other books. I felt like I could really relate to her, which makes a great lead character, because let's face it, the number of series there are where the lead character, not just in books, in films, in TV, in everything, where the lead character is really dull and boring and you just there's nothing exciting about them. This is the complete opposite. I absolutely love that character. She is my favourite character in the entire book, and there are a lot of characters which are wonderful and great, so that really says something about her. Another great aspect to this book is the world building. Now in a lot of long series, the first book can often be overwhelmed by scene setting and description, but with this book that is really not the case. This book is so well structured that Samantha Shannon is able to pull us into this series a little bit at a time and gradually unveil this incredibly rich and diverse world that she has created. It is incredible to realise that this is just the first book in a series of 7, because the world she has created in this book alone is so massive and so extensive that you just can't quite imagine how big that world and how well explored that world is going to be by the end of the 7th book. On top of that, her writing style is incredibly visual. Her descriptions are so rich in detail that you can't help but to imagine this world with incredible clarity. Now flashbacks are an aspect of this book, and normally I'm not a massive fan of flashbacks. I find they can be a bit jarring within the plot, but with this one it works really well. You feel like it's a natural progression. They're so liberally spread out throughout the plot that it just works. Now as mentioned, this is the first book in a 7-part series. The second book, The Mime Order, comes out next January. You can pre-order it now, and I have read the preview for that book. I really enjoy it. The great thing about this is that it takes the series in a totally new direction. And anyone who's read The Bone Season will tell you that you can't quite take in how this is only the first book of a 7-part series, because so much happens in it and it is a really big, you feel like it is a really big part of the plot. And when you think there's still another 6 books to go, it's like there is so much potential here. You know, if this is the first book and so much happens in it, imagine what could happen over the next 6. Now I hope this video has persuaded you to read this book if you haven't already. I know a lot of people in the booktube community have read it, but I know a grand total of 1 person outside of booktube who has read this book, and that is really sad. So tell your friends, tell your family, tell everyone to read this book. It's a fantastic book, and it is the first one in a 7-part series. It can only get better. If you have read this book, then feel free to leave a comment below telling me why you love it so much, because I need more people to flail over it with. So I'll be back next Thursday with another Throwback Thursday video. If you haven't already, make sure you check out Bone Season by Samantha, Shannon, and I hope you have a good week. I will see you then. Bye!